Hey, welcome back, my beautiful disasters. You're glowing today, like a time bomb wrapped in elegance, seconds away from detonation. You feel it, don't you? That current thrumming in your chest, that itch beneath your skin, whispering that something irreversible has just shifted. Don't blink. The cards are already on the table, the verdict carved in stone, and this time you are not the one in chains. So stay still. I'm about to trace your chaos line, and it's alive, furious, relentless, undeniable. You're not here looking for clarity, you're here for confirmation, the confirmation of vengeance that's been a long time coming. And oh darling, you better choose your outfit carefully, because your name is about to echo through the airwaves like a gunshot in a cathedral. I see it right here, burning in the ash around your aura, the collapse of their smug little empire, and the rise of your madness, sharpened into a crown. They didn't believe you. They mocked, dismissed, and tried to brand you as unstable, emotional, irrational. But look closely now. Look who's sitting front row at the funeral of their own arrogance. The verdict is in, sweetheart, and it's wearing your face. The cameras aren't just recording anymore. They're locked onto your resurrection. Your psyche has been marinating in chaos so long, it has become prophetic. I can smell the fire threaded through your timeline, the scorched remains of the old you, the one they tried to bury under legal tricks, manipulation, and gaslighting. They left you questioning your own cries for justice, but you didn't fade, you didn't break. You evolved, violently, elegantly, like smoke carving its initials into marble. You didn't just survive, you documented. You catalogued every betrayal, archived every backhanded handshake, memorized every fake smile, every stalling tactic, every court delay, designed to grind your spirit into dust. And now you're no longer whispering, you're not just surviving, you're performing. The cameras are ready, the mics are hot, the nation is watching. You haven't been summoned to defend yourself. You've been called to showcase what righteous fury looks like in high definition. When you step forward, no one sees a victim. They see a walking lawsuit wrapped in eyeliner, sharp enough to slice glass. They see a smile that isn't joy. It's documentation, it's evidence, it's justice, in a grin. I see their faces, all of them. The ones who underestimated you, who chuckled in boardrooms, who rolled their eyes in courtrooms, who called you dramatic while committing crimes with manicured fingernails and suits stitched by cowards. They're not laughing anymore. They're trapped mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in holding cells they built for you. And you're on the 7 o'clock special, being called the voice of the voiceless by an anchor who can barely hold themselves together. Suddenly you're being described with words they never imagined would cling to your name: relentless, precise, strategic, brilliant. Isn't it funny? They spent years trying to silence you, and now you're their headline. But that sugar is only the surface reading. Let me lean in closer. Let me listen to what the bones are whispering, because your revenge, it was never petty. It's architectural. You didn't just win. You constructed an entire psychological prison out of their own choices, and now they're locked inside it with no exit. The prosecution, that's just paperwork. What's really unfolding is cosmic correction, universal symmetry slamming its gavel and declaring, you're not crazy. You were right again and again and again. You've shifted from being just a person into something greater, an omen, a lesson, a warning. A headline with teeth. Your name has become a whisper in the very offices where corruption once thrived without consequence. They replay your footage, study your cadence, dissect your interviews, searching for the monster they tried to brand you as, only to find a mirror they can't bear to hold their gaze against for too long. You became the blueprint, the example of what happens when a weapon learns how to sue. When a victim stops explaining and starts documenting, when someone grows too tired of crying and starts collecting evidence instead. And my favorite part, your silence. That was the calm before their collapse. While they were savoring power, you were studying how to dismantle it. While they were laughing, you were learning how to prosecute it. While they were betting on your disappearance, you were mastering the art of becoming unforgettable. And now they're terrified of you. Not just your words, but your presence, your posture, the weight in your voice. The way your name on a docket already spells their defeat. Your aura isn't just glowing, it's reverberating, shaking their foundations. You're no longer on trial. You are the meteor they never saw coming. The elegant disaster cloaked in legal precedent and righteous fury. They can't even sleep now. Your very existence is a verdict with legs, a gavel that walks, a face they'll never escape. Every time they close their eyes, every time they think of trying it again with someone else, it's you they see. You didn't just win, you rewrote the rules of engagement. So dust off your shoulders, fix your collar, and flash that grin. The news stations are waiting. The world wants to hear from you, not because you're lucky, not because you're dramatic, but because you are undeniable. They called it court, but what really happened was that you revealed what justice looks like when it becomes personal. And darling, it has never looked this devastatingly beautiful in high definition. Now your name pulses through the wires of their anxiety, like electricity in a faulty circuit. Every ping, every update, every headline about your case is a fresh shock to their nervous system, a reminder that the game has changed forever. They refresh the headlines like addicts, desperate for the story to shift in their favor, but it never does. It only tightens. The same narrative plays on repeat, each cycle binding them closer to the truth they once dismissed. Your eyes, once written off as emotional or forensic, now piercing through every facade. Your voice, once mocked as unstable, is judicial now, carrying the weight of evidence. Your presence, once enough to make them roll their eyes, now makes them scramble to check their legal insurance. Every step you take toward the camera is a reminder that silence was never weakness. It was strategy, it was calculation, it was you breathing deep in the dark until the timing was perfect to emerge and make the system remember your name. They never knew what to do with someone like you, someone who shattered quietly, rebuilt sharply, and returned draped in court documents like couture. Someone who watched every attempt at humiliation transform into evidence. Someone who didn't snap but studied. You didn't just grow stronger, you became surgical. You stopped screaming and started filing. Filing behind closed doors, behind corporate curtains, behind their hollow apologies. Now they shake in rooms you'll never step into. They draft emails they'll never send. They hold entire meetings just to strategize how to keep you from speaking again. But they can't stop you. Not anymore. You don't wait for the microphone. You bring your own. You don't beg for justice. You arrive with your own lighting crew. You don't wait for an introduction. You walk in mid-sentence and make the script catch up to you. And here's the truth. Their prosecution isn't only about legal consequences. It's about exposure, spiritual exposure. They're not just being charged. They're being unmasked, publicly, globally, across every screen in front of witnesses they swore would never believe you. Your name carries weight now. It bends conversations, silences rooms, and forces fake smiles out of enemies who once chuckled behind their glass desks. They know you didn't vanish. You just became louder in ways they cannot control. The best part, you're not even raising your voice. You're calm, colder, sharper, like a knife that doesn't need to swing, only to be seen. You don't crave revenge. You don't hunger for blood. What you needed was this, the stage, the spotlight, the camera rolling endlessly with your truth, while their lies rot in the back of their throats. That's what terrifies them most. Not that you're furious, but that you're flawless. Not that you're breaking down, but that you're articulate. Not that you're screaming, but that you're terrifying in your clarity, because you didn't just win. You became documented proof that pain can be weaponized into eloquence, that trauma can step onto the stage and heals, that the villain they tried to create was never you. It was them all along. It was the system that didn't believe you. Not the first time, not the 10th time, not even the 100th time. They ignored your voice, dismissed your evidence, and buried your truth beneath piles of bureaucracy and delay. But the irony is this: the same system that tried to silence you is now the one broadcasting your voice to millions. And when you walk onto the set, you don't look like someone carrying bitterness. You look like inevitability. Your hair is immaculate, your eyes are loaded pistols, and your voice slices through the air smooth and sharp enough to cut glass. When you speak, it doesn't sound like rage, it sounds like prophecy. It sounds like the trial was always destined to end this way. No matter how many motions they filed, no matter how many continuances they begged for, no matter how many tricks they tried to play, every word out of your mouth is not just an answer. It's footage, it's evidence, it's a warning shot to every other monster who thought polite emails, legal jargon, and corporate shields would protect them forever. You're not just making history, you're making examples, you're setting precedents. And they feel it in real time, that sinking recognition that they've become the cautionary tale you now hold up to the light. The news anchor tries to control the conversation, but you control the current. They fumble to steer the questions, but you redirect the narrative. You don't chase the story, you are the story. You hold the entire arc in your palm. Victim, fighter, witness, storm. When you speak, their credibility crumbles like a sandcastle in a hurricane. You don't raise your voice. You raise the standard. You raise the stakes. You raise the unspoken question burning in every viewer's mind. If this could happen to them, how many others have gotten away with it? You were the flame they thought they smothered, but flames, when pressed down, create smoke. And smoke always warns the village before the fire arrives. You became that signal. You turned survival into a broadcast. And now, while their PR teams scramble, spinning frantic statements and drafting half apologies, while their lawyers sit in boardrooms trying to reframe the narrative in real time, it's already too late. You control the tempo now. Their panic only confirms your power. Your name trends not because you begged for attention, not because you shouted the loudest, but because truth always finds its way to the lens. And when it does, it chooses faces like yours, unflinching, unapologetic, undeniable. You're not being interviewed. You're testifying to the future. And darling, I've read that future. It has your fingerprints etched all over it, the moment your words hit the airwaves. It's not just a courtroom that shifts, it's the entire culture. The temperature of the collective room changes. Your cadence becomes case law. Your tone becomes evidence. Your very gaze travels through the lens and buries itself into the hearts of silent observers everywhere. People who have spent years wondering if anyone would ever hold their demons accountable. They feel it. Not just the ones already on trial, but the ones watching from the shadows, praying they aren't next. Because the way you speak, the way you command air itself, carries something ancient. It isn't revenge. It isn't performance. It is reckoning. You aren't answering their questions. You are delivering sentences, both verbal and karmic. And that, more than anything else, is why they can't look away. Every answer you give lands like a gavel, heavy and absolute, carrying the weight of judgment that cannot be appealed. Every pause between your sentences drips like a slow verdict, stretching across the silence, pressing down on the guilty, with the kind of unbearable anticipation that makes their throats tighten. You're no longer just a name scrolled on a docket, or a case number tucked into the archives. You've become the new definition of what happens when silence sharpens itself into a blade and learns how to operate with surgical precision. Once upon a time they interrupted you, they spoke over you, they corrected you with smug smiles and polite venom. They trapped you in rooms where their faces looked professional, but their intentions were twisted. They thought dominance was interruption, that silencing you equaled control. But now on this stage, on this screen, in this moment, no one dares to even shift in their seat while you speak. No one dares to blink too loudly, because they know your voice is no longer just sound. It's a signal, a flare, a broadcast from the mouth of someone they swore would never make it this far. And yet, here you stand. There's a special kind of terror that creeps up the spine of anyone who has underestimated you. It isn't the kind of fear born from chaos. It's colder, sharper, heavier. It's the fear that comes when they realize you never forgot. You remembered every dismissive word, every glance that tried to reduce you, every tactic, every smirk, every manipulation they believed would keep you small. They thought the courtroom was the end of the story. But they were wrong. The courtroom was only the doorway, the interview, the screen, the public record. That is where the real sentencing begins. Documents can be shredded, paper trails can vanish. But footage lives forever, replayed, shared, archived until the end of time. They thought they could win by exhausting you, by drowning you in bureaucracy and red tape and endless procedures designed to suffocate the loud and protect the slick. They thought watching you stumble was inevitable, that you'd eventually burn out under the weight of their systems, but they never accounted for what you became in the shadows. They didn't predict your mutation. They didn't see how every attempt to crush you only made you more adaptable. They didn't understand how pressure doesn't just destroy, it crystallizes. And that's what you are now, crystallized, forged into something unshakable. You're not bitter, you're polished. You're a relic that gleams with every insult they thought you'd forget, every betrayal they thought you'd bury. You are not sitting in a studio, you are haunting it. The walls carry your presence, the air bends to your cadence. Every word you speak doesn't just land, it possesses the people on the other side of the lens. Some of them hold their breath without realizing, some of them feel the hair rise on their arms, an instinctive recognition that what they're witnessing isn't performance, it's prophecy. And in that moment, people everywhere awaken to a truth they've buried deep, that justice isn't a faceless system, it's a person, it's a decision. It's someone who finally said, I will not bleed quietly anymore. And those who waged war against you, they're watching too. They sit in boardrooms pretending not to flinch. They tell themselves, this is just another interview, just another broadcast, just another news cycle. But their pulses betray them. Their blood runs cold with every deliberate beat of your delivery, because they know this is not a victim speaking. This is a precedent. This is a case study. This is a live demonstration of what happens when the underestimated return with receipts instead of mercy. You don't even need to name them. You don't need to show their faces. Your words alone wrap around them like a noose, woven from clarity, and it tightens, not with rage, but with precision. You don't scream. You frame. You arrange their downfall neatly, elegantly, until their legacies collapse into dust. And here's the most devastating part. Their ruin isn't just personal, it's syndicated. It's replayed in every corner of the culture, in classrooms, in offices, in courtrooms, where others are still fighting their battles. Their humiliation is archived, multiplied, immortalized. People are watching, not just ordinary viewers, but decision makers, survivors, predators, and bystanders. Judges are watching, lawyers are watching, victims are watching, survivors are taking notes, and predators, predators are shaking, because they see the writing on the wall. Survivors are learning something new, that it's possible, that it can be done, that the system can bend when pushed hard enough. And predators are learning something even more frightening, that it's over, that the immunity they once wore like armor is cracking, and your voice is the hammer. The rest of the world is realizing that script has changed forever. They thought justice was a dry procedure, a silent process buried in dusty files. But you rewrote it in real time, live, with a voice soaked in truth, and a history they prayed would stay buried. You've proven that justice isn't abstract. It has a face, it has a cadence, it has a presence too undeniable to ignore. Your aura is too loud to be filtered. Your presence is too commanding to be softened. They can't spin this. They can't dilute this. No public relations campaign can distract from this moment. No press release can erase it. No vague apology can soften its impact. The record doesn't belong to them anymore. It belongs to you, and you've carved it into stone, into film, into memory, and that, more than any verdict, is what terrifies the most. They didn't just misjudge your strength. They underestimated the scope of your reach, the scale of your echo, because you didn't merely dismantle their illusion of control. You syndicated their downfall. Their betrayal is no longer hidden in whispers or sealed behind legal jargon. It's archived, replayed, dissected. Their cowardice is on replay. Their failures clipped, looped, and shared in living rooms, classrooms, courtrooms, and coffee shops. You turned what they thought was your shame into a broadcast they cannot silence. They thought anonymity would protect them, but their disgrace is now streaming, their arrogance immortalized. You never needed to shout their names. You never needed to plaster their faces across posters. You became something far more dangerous. A mirror too bright to look into, too loud to ignore. And that mirror doesn't reflect you alone. It reflects them, their corruption, their cruelty, their smug certainty that no one would ever hold them accountable. To stand before you now is to see themselves burned into history's permanent record. What you've created here is not justice. It's education. It's a masterclass in truth. A tutorial for the world, forcing everyone to admit that monsters don't always hide in the shadows. Sometimes they walk into offices every morning wearing tailored suits. Sometimes they sit across dinner tables practicing polite smiles. Sometimes they gatekeep careers, holding polished reputations like weapons, and you rip the curtain away. You force the public to confront the uncomfortable truth. Evil doesn't always snarl. It often shakes your hand. You are the blueprint, the warning label, the open case file with a pulse. Every person who watches your broadcast is being rewired in real time. Their understanding of strength is being rewritten. Their assumptions about survivors obliterated. Their blind faith in the system rattled to its core. But most importantly, their vision of you has transformed, no longer dismissed as bitter, no longer labeled hysterical. You are absolute. You don't just inspire, you restructure belief systems. You don't just expose corruption, you burn down the stage they built to hide it. And outside the courtroom, beyond the studio, your face has become a beacon. It appears on LED banners, on timelines, on phones glowing late at night. This isn't viral celebrity, it's viral reckoning. Pedestrians stop mid-stride to read the captions beneath your photo, not because you're trending, but because something in the air around you feels magnetic. It pulls at them, it unsettles them, it wakes them up. Systems that once thrived on secrecy are collapsing under proximity to your truth. You don't chase confessions, they rush to you. Your presence alone makes guilty eyes dart away in public. Old acquaintances reread their old messages, sweat pooling as they wonder if they laughed at the wrong time, if they said nothing when you were bleeding, if their silence made them complicit, because you are no longer merely a person who was hurt. You are a signal flare for everything the world ignored, and no one, absolutely no one, gets to walk away from you unchanged. Meetings are happening right now behind polished boardroom doors. HR departments draft cautious emails. PR firms scramble to control narratives. Law offices work overtime to limit exposure. Phones buzz with group chats titled "Damage Control." Someone is deleting old texts at 2 a.m. Another is shredding files before dawn. Another is scrubbing their social media history. But it's already too late. The digital ink is permanent. The broadcast is archived. The reckoning is public. And here's the truth. They don't fear your revenge. they fear your permanence. You don't even need to show up anymore. You don't need to storm their gates. You are already everywhere, woven into algorithms, stitched into conversations, humming in the back of every predator's mind who once thought silence was eternal. You've replaced silence with signal. You've replaced shame with syllables too sharp to be softened. You've replaced invisibility with presence, so undeniable, it echoes in spaces you'll never walk into, because you were never the problem. You were always the proof of the problem, proof they couldn't erase, proof they couldn't discredit, proof they couldn't survive once it reached the light. And the moment you stepped up to that microphone, the entire ecosystem didn't shift in your favor, it collapsed under your weight. Systems cracked, cultures bent, old hierarchies buckled, because when truth is delivered by someone who has walked through hell and returned with receipts, no one argues. The room doesn't clap, the room doesn't debate, the room falls silent, and in that silence the guilty drown. And what you've built now is bigger than any trial, bigger than any case. You've created a cultural precedent. Survivors are watching and realizing it's possible. Predators are watching and realizing it's over. And the rest of the world is watching, finally understanding. The script has been rewritten forever. You don't have to beg for justice. You embody it. You don't have to chase accountability. You attract it. You don't have to demand belief. You command it. And in that command, entire systems unravel, because you didn't just survive. You didn't just fight. You rewired the narrative itself. And now when you speak, it's not just your story being told. It's everyone's warning, everyone's wake-up call, everyone's proof. The truth, when armed with memory and evidence, is unstoppable. You are no longer one voice. You are the verdict echoing across a generation. It trembles now. The system, the culture, the rooms they once thought were untouchable. You don't have to convince anyone anymore. Those days are gone. Convincing is for people still fighting to be heard. Convincing is for the beginning, when the truth is fragile and gaslighted into silence. But you've crossed that threshold. You don't argue. You don't plead. You exist. And that is enough. The evidence doesn't sit in files anymore. It walks with you. It wears your posture. It moves in your cadence. It rests in your eyes. The case may be closed, but the impact is permanent, branded into history like scripture carved into stone. You didn't win by chance. You didn't stumble into vindication like some lucky accident. You outlasted the illusion. You survived the maze they built to exhaust you, the traps they set to break you, and that doesn't make you a survivor. It makes you something far more dangerous. You've become a legend with a witness list, a living precedent etched into memory. The guilty whisper your name, not like gossip, but like ritual, afraid the sound itself might summon consequences. And now they study you obsessively, compulsively. They replay your footage like students of a failed empire, analyzing the blueprint of their collapse. They pause on frames, slow down your words, pick apart your tone, hoping to decode the moment everything slipped away from them. They dissect your phrasing. They analyze the way your hand rested calmly on the table. They replay again and again the moment they asked you the question they thought would unravel you, and you didn't blink. That was what shook them, not just the evidence, not even the words themselves, but the precision, the stillness, the terrifying lack of apology. You didn't flinch. You didn't stumble. You didn't soften your delivery to make the guilty more comfortable. You didn't tremble, like they rehearsed in their minds, the performance they imagined of you falling apart on cue. Instead, you sat there poised, posture perfect, a loaded consequence in human form. Your silence was heavier than their arguments. Your gaze was louder than their speeches, and with every word you spoke, every carefully measured pause, every glance that refused to break, their lies disintegrated into acid in their mouths. You didn't appear on screen as a guest. You didn't show up as a feature. You became something else entirely. An event, a cultural tremor, a moment in the timeline of power itself that can never be reversed. That moment is unrecoverable. They can try to rewrite their narrative, spin the story, bury the clips, but it won't work. It's etched in collective memory now. And once truth is etched in memory, it cannot be erased. Your face has become their reckoning, your voice, their liability. You've been quoted, clipped, subtitled, translated into 20 languages, and with each translation, your truth doesn't thin. It multiplies, it sharpens, it gains new resonance. Your pain is not regional, it is not bound to borders or accents. It is universal, it travels across oceans, seeps through time zones, crosses cultures. Your defiance enters rooms where the guilty once thought language would protect them. It lingers in spaces they thought distance would shield them, and still it arrives. Because you're not just televised, you're weaponized. And here's the terror they cannot contain. They can't outrun you anymore. You became a signal, a transmission wrapped in fire. You are everywhere and nowhere, inescapable. They cannot deny what you've made visible. They cannot unsee what you've illuminated. You didn't need to retaliate. Retaliation is too small for what you've become. You became a force multiplier. Your words weren't just heard. They replicated. They multiplied inside the minds of those listening, growing copies of themselves, rewriting thought patterns in real time. People who once stayed silent are now drafting statements, quietly preparing to speak. People who once kept their heads down are pulling up receipts they thought would never matter. People who once whispered that justice was only a dream are now calculating timelines, measuring possibilities, daring to believe. You turned your courtroom victory into more than precedent. You turned it into contagion, a psychic infection, a cultural virus, a spark in the spine of a generation that has swallowed too much poison for too long and finally refuses to choke on what doesn't sit right. And that spark, it doesn't fade, it spreads. It multiplies in places you'll never set foot. It ignites in people you'll never meet. It shifts the air in countries you've never traveled to. Teachers bring your words into classrooms. Journalists quote you in op-eds. Activists hold your photo on placards. Strangers replay your clips at 2 in the morning, whispering, "If they could, maybe I can too." You've turned into something more than a story. You've become a permission slip for courage. Institutions feel it too. Entire departments shift uneasily. HR emails drafted in panic. Executives whisper in hallways. Lawyers huddle in conference rooms, their voices low and nervous. Whole firms put themselves on high alert, bracing for waves they know they can't control. And predators feel it most. They scroll through your footage late at night, unable to finish, unable to look away, their own pulse betraying them. They feel the collapse in their bones. They understand instinctively that their time is shrinking, because you are no longer one voice. You are the collective verdict echoing across a generation, and once the verdict is spoken, once it is caught on camera, subtitled, archived and replayed, there is no going back. You are proof that silence can become signal, proof that shame can become syllables too sharp to ignore, proof that pain, when armed with clarity, becomes a weapon no system can withstand, and in that proof, the guilty drown. That's all for today. Heavenly Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Teach me to trust you even when I cannot see the evidence. Help me believe in your constant presence, knowing you will never bring me harm. I hold on to the truth that your plans for me are filled with prosperity, hope, and a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always hearing my prayers. I lift this prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your endless love and provision. I am deeply grateful for your presence in my life and for the abundance you so faithfully provide. If this message spoke to your heart, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who may need encouragement. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you're preparing for your own victorious return. And if you'd like to support our work, please